So Ron Desantis is doing his best to turn Florida into the Hungary of the South. And he's running for president. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So Ron DeSantis is doing his best to run for president on the basis that he is actually succeeding at what Donald Trump tried to do, which is to turn America into an authoritarian hellhole. I mean, consider this article. Florida could start looking a lot like Hungary. I mean, I can't believe that we're talking about authoritarian countries in the same breath as we're talking about states like Florida and Wisconsin. These are states where basically they have done everything to muzzle any point of view that doesn't agree with theirs. And the irony is, at the same time, they're claiming that they're being muzzled, kind of as a basis for their attack on freedom of speech. I mean, in Florida, you even have a Republican who has actually proposed a bill in the Florida legislature to ban the Democratic Party. What could be more authoritarian than that? And the basis for his ultimate cancel act is, quote, "The reason behind filing this bill is that I was tired of leftist Democrats canceling people, places, and things for occurrences that happened centuries ago regarding slavery." But isn't it Florida that is terrified of actually teaching about African American history? They just don't want to teach the history that says anything bad about slavery. That's the difference. But it's not just that. A Florida county Republican Party voted to ban the COVID-19 vaccine. Now listen, I happen to believe that getting a vaccine is part of your duty to society as a whole. Because by you getting the vaccine, you're essentially protecting all of society from the disease. But let's even set that aside. If I want to get a vaccine, according to their logic, I should be able to get it, right? They're saying not just that people should choose whether they can get the vaccine, but that they want to ban people from getting the vaccine. And before you say, oh, this is just one local Republican Party in Florida, legislation has been introduced into Idaho to do exactly the same thing. This is the state also that's literally banning books and punishing companies that dare disagree with their position on the Don't Say Gay legislation. So much for their commitment to freedom of speech. And isn't it funny that it's the leftist Democrats that are canceling everything? All I see are Ron DeSantis and his buddies doing it. But as I say, he's running for president now. And if you don't believe me, check out this video that his campaign committee put out. If ever there were evidence that he's running for president, this is it.
When the world lost its mind, when common sense suddenly became an uncommon virtue, Florida was a refuge of sanity.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. What he's talking about, of course, is the whole COVID crisis and the fact that he refused to engage in some of the efforts to control the spread of the virus the way many other states did. Unfortunately, the facts tell a very different story than what Ron DeSantis is telling here. After all, while Florida isn't number one on the list of deaths from COVID, it's actually lucky number 13, above states that were ravaged by it like New York and California, for example, those liberal hellholes. What's more is, for all of Ron DeSantis's position that he was allowing freedom by refusing to enforce restrictions on COVID, what he was actually doing was stepping on the private property rights of businesses. I thought Republicans were for private property and for business. I mean, he literally fined businesses if they dared to say that they wanted people to wear masks. But let's keep watching.
Citadel of freedom for our fellow Americans and even for people around the world.
Ron DeSantis has decided to put his people first.
Ron DeSantis taking a lot of heat over it, but he's not backing down.
Florida's success has been made more difficult by the floundering federal establishment in Washington, D.C.
Isn't it funny, now that Ron DeSantis is running for president, suddenly he's ignoring the fact that when there was a crisis in Florida where they needed the federal government's help, he praised Joe Biden for its response. So much for floundering federal government standing in the way of his efforts. Let's keep watching.
Inflationary spending binge that has left our nation weaker and our citizens poorer. It has enacted pandemic restrictions and mandates. It has recklessly facilitated open borders.
Okay, I've done probably a dozen videos on this. This really pisses me off, this talking point, because the basis for them saying open borders is the fact that the Biden administration has been arresting more people at the border, which means they're enforcing the border laws and we don't have open borders. So in other words, the very fact that the Biden administration is actually enforcing the law is being used as an argument that they're not enforcing the law. I don't need to revisit that issue. Let's keep watching.
It has imposed an energy policy that has crippled our nation's domestic production.
Okay, this is, how shall I say it, another lie. The United States energy production has actually been increasing pretty dramatically under the Biden administration. In fact, for the first time since World War II, the United States is now poised this year to become a net exporter of crude oil. A much better situation than it's been under any Republican president, and certainly under Donald Trump. So much for the federal government standing in the way of American energy production. Let's keep watching.
This has caused many to be pessimistic about the country's future. Some even say that failure is inevitable.
You know, it's funny he says that, because I don't think that's true. And certainly if you watched President Biden's State of the Union address, I mean, President Biden is kind of a can-do guy. Let's keep watching.
Florida is proof positive that we, the people, are not destined for failure.
DeSantis wins. He has made a promise, and he's making good on the promise.
Florida is...
Well, DeSantis did get a big win in the last election, but I'd like to point out, so did Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. In fact, arguably, the Democrats did better in Michigan than the Republicans in Florida in the last election. But the Republicans aren't going to mention that. Let's keep watching.
Leading the nation. We are the nation's fastest growing state. We rank #1 in education freedom.
#1 in education freedom. I wonder who said that. That's an example of lies, damn lies, and statistics. I'm pretty sure that educators wouldn't say that. I mean, check out this headline from that radical left-wing publication, Forbes magazine, about Florida's war on higher education. And I don't see how book bans can be associated with educational freedom. Let's keep watching.
We are #1 in economic freedom. Florida also ranks #1 in public higher education. This is a record we can all be proud of.
That's why the left.
#1 in public higher education. Well, again, like so many things, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. And as the Florida Phoenix pointed out, whether Florida is really #1 in higher education depends on the statistics. Anyway, I think this video's already gotten plenty long. But that video sure shows that Ron Desantis is running for president. And what's more, is based on his record. Those of us who across the nation who actually care about freedom have something to worry about. Well, if you want to see another video where I react to another one of DeSantis' election videos, check out this video over here. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.